I thought it would be the happiest day, my birthday. Instead of cake and candles, the cold, pitiless truth awaited me. Happy birthday, Mommy. Here's your new place to stay, Owen Bradley said, taking my travel bag out of the trunk at the entrance gate of the Stonehaven Retirement Complex. Experienced specialists will take excellent care of you here. I silently picked up my luggage. His wife, Chelsea, was beaming. When I entered the manager's respectable office, he jumped up from his seat in genuine horror when he saw me. My son Owen didn't realize that a moment ago he had made the biggest mistake of his life. My name is Edith Pearson, and today I turned 8. This morning was no different from the hundreds of others I had spent in absolute seclusion after I lost my husband. I woke up to a thin strip of light seeping through a crack in the curtains and lay for a long time, enjoying the complete silence of my apartment in Seattle. My joints ached and creaked like an old, out-of-tune harpsichord, reminding me that my serene youth was far behind me. I got up, threw on my favorite plush bathrobe, and headed into the kitchen space. I brewed strong tea in the same earthenware cup with a barely noticeable crack near the delicate handle that Owen, my son, had once given me when he was still a junior. On the postcard, which is still kept in my wooden box, it was written in his childish, clumsy handwriting to the best parent on the whole planet. I looked at that cup and thought, where did that gentle child go? At exactly 10:30, the doorbell rang. I knew for sure it was them, Owen and his wife, Chelsea. They promised to come and congratulate me. I opened it. My son was standing on the threshold, tall, fit, and wearing an expensive three-piece suit that fit him perfectly. Next to her is Chelsea, immaculately stylish as always. Perfect styling, professional makeup, and a friendly but icy smile on her lips. "Happy birthday, Mom," Owen cheerfully announced, handing me a gorgeous bouquet of freesias. "Happy anniversary, Edith," Chelsea added, quickly touching my cheek. She gave off a pungent scent of some trendy perfumes, completely at odds with the homely warmth of my old home. I invited them into the kitchen, put flowers in a vase, and filled their cups with tea. They sat down at the table, taking a cursory look around. I knew their appraising gaze well. It was a mixture of pity and arrogance. They looked at my old but immaculately washed curtains, the worn floor covering, the faded photographs on the wall, and I'm sure they were thinking about how I was surviving here in this frozen museum of the past. "Mom, we've prepared a special surprise for you," Owen began after a few minutes of silence devoted to discussing currency fluctuations. "What kind of surprise is this?" I asked cautiously. "We decided that you need to really relax and recuperate," Chelsea said. "We're taking you to a great place outside the city. Clean air, beautiful nature, first-class care, to this sanatorium complex." I was amazed. The last time I visited the sanatorium was 25 years ago, with my husband. "Well, it looks like a sanatorium," Owen replied vaguely, trying not to meet my eyes. "Get ready, Mom. Get your things for 2.5 weeks. Something in his voice, in his shifty eyes, made me even more wary. I tried to question them in more detail, but they just waved me off. "Mom, this is a surprise. You'll see for yourself on the spot." I went to pack my things. I put a couple of dressing gowns, a thick sweater, books, and my arrhythmia medications in an old but sturdy suitcase. While I was in the bedroom, I distinctly heard their muffled whispers in the kitchen. "She doesn't suspect a thing." It was Chelsea's voice. "I don't think so. The main thing is to take it, and then everything is already settled," Owen replied. "Mr. Roberts has been informed. He will arrange everything. We're finally going to solve this problem," Chelsea breathed out with obvious relief. The problem. So I'm a burden to them. Everything went cold inside. I sat down on the edge of the bed, and for a moment I wanted to refuse, to declare that I wasn't going anywhere, but I immediately realized that it was useless. They've already decided everything for me. I was just a passive object that needed to be moved from point A to point B. I went out to them with a suitcase. Owen immediately took it from me. "That's great, Mom. Go." We went downstairs and got into their shiny navy blue crossover. I looked out the window at the familiar streets flying by and felt like I was being taken away not just from my home, but from my very life. and the ominous premonition, cold and sticky, intensified with every dozen miles traveled. The car was speeding down Interstate 99, taking me further and further away from Seattle. The urban landscape was replaced by bleak autumn fields. Then the forests stretched out, shedding their golden yellow foliage. Chelsea was sitting in the front seat next to Owen, scrolling through something on her tablet. Owen drove the car, staring intently at the road. The oppressive silence in the cabin was unbearable. "Mom, how are you feeling?" Owen suddenly asked, without taking his eyes off the road. "I'm fine," he replied softly. "You've been kind of distracted lately," Chelsea remarked casually, without turning her head. "I called you last week, and you asked who was calling." "I just didn't hear you," I said. "Well, yes, of course," she snorted dismissively. "What about the time you forgot to turn off the toaster?" "It's good that I stopped by on time. I haven't forgotten him. I didn't turn it on at all that day," I said firmly. "Mom, stop it," Owen intervened. "We're not going to fight. We're worried about you. It's hard for you to live alone in such a large apartment. You constantly need to remember something, keep track of everything, and the years are already taking their toll." I didn't say anything. It was pointless to argue. For the past few months, they've been looking for evidence of my senility. Either I allegedly forgot to pay for the phone service, although the receipt was in a prominent place, or I mixed up the days and prepared a festive treat a day earlier. Every little thing, every oversight was blown up to the scale of tragedy and presented as an irrefutable sign of impending senility. I turned to the window and stared out at the rapidly changing trees. I remembered another day, another trip, 30 years ago. I was about 40, and my husband and I were driving to the regional hospital in an old Chevrolet. We were driving my mother. She was already very bad. After the cerebral hemorrhage, she hardly spoke, did not recognize us. We were going to take her to a municipal nursing home because we had neither the money for a round-the-clock nurse nor the strength for constant care. I remember that day in every detail. The gray, peeling walls, the smell of chlorine and despair, the tired, indifferent faces of the nurses and my mother's eyes, empty, extinguished, full of silent horror. She died there 2 months later from longing. I still can't forgive myself for that. It was then, standing at her gravestone, that I made a solemn promise to myself. If I ever have money and opportunities, I will do everything so that no elderly person ends his life in such humiliation. After my husband's death, I received a significant sum, and I kept my word. I have invested all my savings in creating a private network of boarding houses for pensioners, not for profit, but to ensure that there are better conditions, high-quality care, and respectful treatment. I named this chain Golden Valley Resort. I didn't advertise that I was the owner, managing everything through an anonymous investment fund. This gave me the opportunity to unexpectedly come to any of the boarding houses as a secret auditor and see everything without embellishment. Owen knew that I had some kind of commercial activity, but he never went into the details. For him, it was just a mom's whim, a kind of passive income that allowed me to live and sometimes help him. He didn't even know about the real scale of my business. "Mom, what are you thinking?" Owen's voice snapped me out of my memories. "I'm thinking," I replied laconically. "That's great," Chelsea said approvingly. "Think about how wonderful it will be for you to relax. No responsibilities, no worries." The car turned off the highway onto a narrow asphalt path that led deep into the coniferous forest. The air was unusually fresh, smelling of pine and moist soil. A few minutes later, we arrived at a tall wrought iron gate. Above them hung a beautiful, exquisite sign, Golden Valley Resort Private Complex. My heart skipped a beat. I stared at this sign, at the recognizable symbol, the golden maple leaf that I once sketched on a napkin in the cafeteria, and I just couldn't believe my eyes. They brought me here, to my own boarding house, to this institution that I created as a memorial to my mother, as a stronghold of hope for hundreds of other elderly people. "That's it. We've arrived," Owen said happily, stopping the car right in front of the entrance. "Do you like it?" I didn't answer. I was just looking at the neat paths, the manicured flower beds, the bright, modern building with large windows. And then I realized it wasn't just a surprise. It was a carefully orchestrated, cynical, cruel mockery. They took me to my personal paradise to turn it into my prison. Owen turned off the engine. We all sat in silence for a while. He seemed to be waiting for some kind of emotional reaction from me: admiration, surprise, appreciation. Chelsea stared straight ahead with a smug grin. I just kept silent, trying to calm the trembling in my hands and the pounding of my heart. "Why are we stuck here? Let's get out," Chelsea interrupted the silence. "They're already expecting us." Owen got out of the car and opened the door for me. I climbed out slowly, as if in a dream. The air was fresh and clean, but I hardly felt it. All my senses were focused on one thing: the monstrous betrayal that was unfolding right in front of my eyes. Owen took my old suitcase out of the trunk. "Come on, Mom." We headed for the main entrance. The resort building looked exactly as I had seen it from the reports and photographs. Light sand brick, panoramic glazing, spacious balcony. Everything was done with calculation and care. My concern: a friendly woman in a white medical coat greeted us at the entrance. "Hello, are you Miss Pearson? Come in, please." "No," Owen corrected her. "This is Edith Pearson, my mother. We brought her to you." The woman looked at me in surprise, then at Owen. "I'm sorry. I must have misunderstood something. We had no new residents scheduled to arrive today." "We've been talking to the manager, Mr. Roberts," Chelsea said, frowning. "He should have prepared everything." At that moment, Mr. Roberts himself came out of the lobby, a tall, gray-haired man in his early 60s with tired but kind eyes. I only knew him from video conferences. We called each other once a quarter for a report. He had never seen me in person, only knew my voice and the pseudonym of the anonymous investor. "Owen, Chelsea," he came up to us. "I've been waiting for you. And this, as I understand it, is your mother?" "Yes," Owen nodded. "Edith Pearson." Mr. Roberts held out his hand to me. "Very pleasant. Welcome to Golden Valley Resort." I silently shook his warm, firm hand. I saw compassion in his eyes. He thought I was just another unhappy old lady that the kids had decided to get rid of. "Mom." Owen turned to me. His face was a mask of caring and concern. "Now you will live here permanently." And then he uttered that very phrase, a phrase that was supposed to break me, but instead ignited a cold fire of determination in me. "Happy birthday, Mom. This is your new home." He set my suitcase down on the spotless marble floor. "Professionals will provide you with care," Chelsea added, looking around the luxurious lobby with a smile. "You'll feel much better here than in your old apartment." I looked at them, at my son and daughter-in-law, and did not recognize them. They were strangers, cruel people who sent me into exile on my own birthday with a smile. "We're going to go," Owen said. "We still have to stop by on business." "Won't you even stay with me for a cup of tea?" I asked quietly. "Mommy, come on." Chelsea threw up her hands. "You need to adapt. Get to know the staff. We won't bother you. We'll call you back tomorrow." They turned around and walked towards the exit. They didn't hug or kiss goodbye. They just walked away. I stared after them at their retreating silhouettes. The door closed behind them, cutting me off from the past. I was left standing in the middle of the lobby with my old suitcase. Mr. Roberts was standing next to her. "Miss Pearson," he said softly, "let me take you to your room, and then we'll fill out all the necessary paperwork." I nodded slowly. I knew that I shouldn't show any tears or despair right now. I have to be steady right now. I have to play my part, the role of the abandoned mother, until the time comes to show who is the real owner here. Mr. Roberts escorted me to the second floor. The corridors were bright and spacious. There were artistic landscapes on the walls. There were real flowers in the pots. It smelled fresh and somehow subtly homemade, perhaps fresh pastries from the dining room. Everything was exactly as I had planned. There was no smell of antiseptic or hospital. "Here's your room." He opened the door. "Number 212. The room was compact, but very cozy. A large bed with orthopedic mattress, a comfortable armchair by the window, a small desk. a plasma TV on the wall, and a private bathroom with safety rails. I approved this project myself, every little detail. "Make yourself comfortable," Mr. Roberts said. "I'll pick you up in 30 minutes, and we'll go to my office for registration. If you need anything, here's the staff call button." He went out, closing the door softly behind him. I was left alone. I went to the window. It had a view of a pine forest and a small lake. Beautiful, peaceful, the perfect place to meet old age or to lose your mind from loneliness and betrayal. I sat down in the armchair and only then allowed myself to exhale deeply. The tears wouldn't come. There was a strange, cold emptiness inside. I felt no pain, no resentment, just an icy calm. I was thinking about Owen and Chelsea. What for? Why would they do that? My apartment, it doesn't cost that much money to put on a show like that. My savings, they didn't know how much I actually had. So it wasn't just about money. I was a hindrance to them, a heavy burden, a reminder that they weren't always so successful and rich. I was their past, which they wanted to get rid of. I got up and started looking around the room. I opened the wardrobe. I checked the drawers of the dresser. Everything was new, clean, and of high quality. I went over to the bed and ran my hand over the bedspread, which was soft and pleasant to the touch. I knew that everything at this resort was top-notch. I demanded this from my managers myself. Half an hour later, as promised, Mr. Roberts came to pick me up. "Have you settled in a bit?" "Yes, thanks. It's very comfortable here," I replied, choosing my words carefully. We moved down the corridor. I tried to walk slowly, slightly slouching, playing the role of a weak, confused elderly lady. I saw him giving me sympathetic glances. We passed by the communal lounge. There were several elderly residents sitting on plush sofas. Someone was reading a book. Someone was watching a television program. The two were engrossed in a chess game. The atmosphere was calm and peaceful. A nurse coordinator, a young girl with friendly eyes, came up to me. "Hello, Miss Pearson. My name is Caitlin. If you need anything, please contact us." "Thanks, Caitlin," I smiled. I saw that the staff here is well chosen. Polite, caring, without that formal indifference that I remember so well from the clinic where my mother was dying. The manager's office was located on the ground floor. It is large, bright, with windows facing the garden. Mr. Roberts invited me to sit in the chair opposite his massive desk. "Let's get started. I will need your identification information and some information about your health status." He took out a registration form and a ballpoint pen. I looked at him and thought, how do I tell him who I really am? No, it's too early. I wanted to see how he would behave, what he would ask. I wanted to play this role to the very end. "Miss Pearson," he looked at me over the top of his glasses, "your son mentioned that you have some memory problems. Does this correspond to reality?" "I can be a little distracted sometimes," I replied evasively. "I understand," he nodded. "Don't worry. We have excellent specialists here. We will help you." He asked questions. I answered calmly, quietly, a little haltingly. I could see that he believed me, believed in my image of a helpless victim, and that made it even harder for me. He is a decent man, a professional, and he too has become an unwitting part of this deception without knowing it. When we finished with the questionnaire, he put down his pen and said, "Well, that's all for today. Now get some rest. Our doctor will come to you tomorrow morning for an initial examination." I got up to leave but stopped at the door. "Mr. Roberts," I said, "could you provide me with the founding documents of your boarding house?" "I'm just curious." He raised his eyebrows in surprise. "Why do you need it?" "I just want to know which institution I went to." He thought for a moment and then shrugged his shoulders. "Okay, I'll ask the corporate lawyer to prepare copies for you." I left his office. The first step has been taken. I knew that when he saw my name on the list of founders of the holding company, which owns the entire Golden Valley resort chain, his surprise would turn to shock. The game has begun. When I returned to my room, the first thing I did was take a book out of my bag. Reading has always helped me calm down and put my thoughts in order, but I couldn't concentrate. The words blurred before my eyes. I was thinking about Owen. Did he really believe in my imaginary illness? Or was it just a convenient loophole to justify his vile act? I went to the window. Residents of the boarding house were walking on the territory. Someone was sitting on the benches, wrapped in blankets. Someone was walking slowly along the paths. They looked serene and tidy. I could see that they were comfortable here, and that made them feel a little better. My business, which I had invested my whole soul and resources in, was functioning. It benefited people, and that was the most important thing. In the evening, the same nurse, Caitlin, knocked on my door. "Miss Pearson, how do you feel? Would you like some herbal tea or something to eat?" "Thanks, Caitlin. I'd like some tea." She promptly brought me a cup of fragrant chamomile tea and a plate of cookies. "If anything, I'm on duty all night tonight. Feel free to press the call button." "Have you been working here long?" I asked. "This is the 3rd year. I really like it here. We have a wonderful team, and the director is Mr. Roberts, a very decent man. Don't the guests complain?" "What are you?" She smiled. "Everyone is very happy. The conditions are excellent. The care is excellent. Some people say it's better here than at home." She left, and I was left with my thoughts. It means that Mr. Roberts is indeed a competent leader. That was good, but it also made my task more difficult. I hated dragging him into this dirty business. The next morning, after breakfast, I decided to walk around the territory. The boarding house was surrounded by a coniferous forest. The air was clean and intoxicating. I walked slowly along the paved path, inhaling the scent of pine. I came across an elderly married couple. They were walking arm in arm, talking quietly about something. When they saw me, they smiled and greeted me. "Are you new here?" "What is it?" the woman asked. "Yes, I just arrived yesterday. Get used to it. It's beautiful here," her husband said. As I walked on, the more I saw, the more I became convinced of one thing. I couldn't let Owen and Chelsea ruin this, not only my life, but the business that was so dear to me. In the afternoon, as promised, the doctor, an elderly, intelligent gentleman, came to see me. He examined me carefully and asked me questions. I answered truthfully, hiding nothing. "Judging by your laboratory tests, which your son handed over to me, you do not have any serious cognitive impairments," he said after completing the examination. "A slight age-related forgetfulness, but this is not a pathology." And my son claimed otherwise. I smiled bitterly. The doctor sighed. "Unfortunately, this happens. Sometimes children see what they want to see." After he left, I felt a surge of strength. I had a specialist's opinion that I was sane. It was another trump card in my hand. I decided to act. I went to the nurse's desk. "Caitlin, honey, could you tell Mr. Roberts that I'm waiting for the documents we agreed on?" "Of course, Miss Pearson. I'll remind him immediately." I went back to my room and waited. I knew that this moment would be a turning point. An hour later, there was a knock on my door. It was Mr. Roberts. He was holding a thin folder in his hands. "That's what you asked for," he said, handing me the documents. "A copy of the charter of the holding company Optimal Assets, which owns our network." He said it calmly, but I could see the curiosity in his eyes. He didn't understand why I needed it. I took the folder and opened it to the first page. The founders. Pearson, Edith, Madeline, 90%. I silently handed him the sheet. He took it, ran his eyes over it, then again. Then he looked up at me. His face was pale. He looked at me as if he had seen a ghost. "Miss Pearson," he whispered. Is that you?" "Yes, Mr. Roberts," I replied calmly. "It's me. And I think it's time for you and me to have a serious discussion about how I got here and what we're going to do next." Mr. Roberts looked at me, and I could see a whole range of emotions reflected in his eyes. Shock, disbelief, confusion, and, finally, comprehension. He looked from the document to my face several times, as if trying to match the image of the stern, invisible owner with whom he communicated via secure video link, and the quiet, elderly woman sitting in front of him in an easy chair. "I don't understand," he finally managed, sinking into the chair opposite me. His habitual confidence had disappeared. Because my own son decided that I had become a burden to him, I replied in a flat, emotionless voice. And on my 80th birthday, he gave me this gift. He listened in silence while I briefly, without unnecessary details and tears, retold to him the events of recent days, about the imaginary surprise, about the false accusations of forgetfulness, about the cold smile of the daughter-in-law. The more I talked, the darker his face became. "Oh my God," he whispered when I was done. I was complicit in this. I helped them lock you up here. You didn't know, Mr. Roberts. You were following instructions. And by the way, you and your staff are the only ones who behaved with dignity in this story." He ran a hand over his face. "What's going to happen now? What are you going to do?" "For starters," I said, and my voice took on a steely edge, "I need a secure mobile phone, internet access, and your office for the next couple of hours." He nodded without hesitation. "Of course, that's all it takes." We went into his office. He locked the door from the inside. I sat in his director's chair. It was comfortable, made of leather. I felt like I belonged there. Mr. Roberts handed me his personal laptop and phone. "What should I do?" he asked. "I am ready to provide all possible assistance. For now, just stay close. I may need a witness." I opened my laptop. My hands were shaking slightly, but I managed to control my excitement. The first thing I did was log into my corporate email, which I only had access to from special secure devices. I found the contacts of the head of the legal department of our holding company, Mr. George Harper. I've known him for years. He was one of the people I trusted completely. I dialed his number. "George, hello. This is Edith Pearson." There was genuine surprise in his voice. "Something happened? You never call at this time." "It's happened, George. What I was most afraid of happened." My own son thought I was crazy. I explained the situation to him quickly and concisely. He listened without interrupting, just breathing heavily into the phone. "Okay," he said when I was done. "I get it. What are your instructions?" "First, immediately block all bank accounts and credit cards of my son Owen Bradley opened at our bank. All without exception. It will be executed. Ground, suspicion of fraudulent activities, and an attempt to illegally seize assets. I'll send you the scans of the documents they tried to use. Accepted. What else?" "Second, raise a mortgage guarantee agreement for their country mansion. I acted as a guarantor." "Do you remember this agreement?" "To launch a termination procedure due to loss of trust and fraudulent actions on the part of the borrower. Let the bank issue them a demand for early repayment of the entire amount." There was a moment of silence on the line. "Miss Pearson, are you sure?" George asked cautiously. "This means that they will most likely lose their home." "I'm absolutely sure, George. They wanted to deprive me of my home. Let them feel what it feels like now." "Okay, I'll arrange everything. By tomorrow morning, they won't have a cent in their accounts, and an official notice from the bank is on their doorstep." "Thank you, George. I'm counting on you." I hung up the phone. Mr. Roberts was looking at me with a new expression. There was not just sympathy in his gaze, but respect. "You are an incredibly strong woman, Miss Pearson." "I'm not strong," I replied, looking out the window at the sunset. "I just refuse to be a victim. I've been like that for too long." At that moment, I felt that a turning point had come. The scales swung in my direction. They thought they had trapped me, but they didn't know that this trap was mine, and now I was going to set my own rules in it. When I finished talking to George, there was silence in the office. Mr. Roberts silently poured me a glass of water. I took a sip. The water was cold and for some reason had a metallic taste. Or maybe it was a taste of the decision. "They'll find out tomorrow morning," I said, more to myself than to him. "And then what happens?" "What is it?" he asked softly. "Panic, anger, accusations, anything but remorse." I was right. I spent the night in my room at the resort. For the first time in a long time, I slept soundly, without dreams. In the morning, it wasn't the alarm clock that woke me up, but a feeling of inner peace. I got up, took a shower, and got dressed. In the dining room, I was greeted by the friendly smiles of the staff. I had breakfast, drank coffee, and waited. The first call came around 10 a.m. Mr. Roberts' phone, which he left for me, showed Owen's number. I didn't answer. A minute later, a text message came. "Mom, what's going on? My cards are blocked." I put down my phone. The call came back half an hour later. This time it's Chelsea. I didn't pick up the phone either. The message from her was more emotional. "Miss Pearson, this is some kind of monstrous mistake. We can't withdraw cash. Owen has an important meeting, and he can't even pay for a taxi. Do something." I grinned. Do something. It's like I'm a fairy godmother who has to solve their problems. By lunchtime, their panic had reached its peak. They called nonstop, wrote furious messages, blaming the bank, the system, anyone but themselves. They still didn't realize that I had done it. They still thought I was a helpless old lady trapped in a boarding house. Around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, George called me. "Miss Pearson, everything is ready. The accounts are frozen." The notification of early repayment of the mortgage was sent by courier. "He'll be with them in a little over an hour." "Thank you, George." "They called the bank," he continued. "They demanded an explanation. They were politely told that this was due to an audit at the request of the main shareholder of the holding." "Do they know it's me?" "Not yet, but I think they'll figure it out soon." I was sitting in an armchair by the window in my room and looking at the pine trees. I didn't feel sorry for them. I was bitter. It is bitter that I was forced to do this, that my own son brought me to the point where I had to defend myself from him as an enemy. I remembered him when he was little, how he would come running to me with a broken knee, and I would blow on it, whispering that everything would heal now. How he fell asleep in my arms, and I was afraid to move so as not to wake him up. Where did it all go? When did he turn into this cold, calculating man for whom the mother is just a problem that needs to be fixed? I knew the answer. It happened gradually. First Chelsea, with her insatiable thirst for luxury and status, then their new environment where only finances and success were valued. Owen was weak. He succumbed to this corrupting influence. He wanted to match. With my old principles, with my humble life, I became a living reproach to him. He didn't just want to get rid of the burden, he wanted to get rid of his own conscience. I didn't feel triumphant that night. I felt empty, like after a hard, bloody battle where you seemed to have one, but you lost too much. I lost my son, probably forever. I went to bed early, but I couldn't sleep a wink. In the silence of the night, every rustle seemed deafening. I've been thinking about what's going to happen tomorrow. Tomorrow they will realize everything, and their anger will come down on me with all its force. And I didn't know if I had the determination to stand it, but I knew one thing: I wouldn't back down anymore. I've been silent for too long. Now it's time to speak and let them hear my voice, the voice of the woman they tried to erase from their lives, but who turned out to be stronger than they thought. The morning began with deafening silence. The phone was silent. No calls, no messages. I knew it was the calm before the storm. They received a notification from the bank. They realized who was behind all this, and now they were considering their next move. I had breakfast in the communal dining room. The guests of the resort, as always, were calm and complacent. They discussed the weather, the grandchildren, and yesterday's TV show. I sat among them, sipped my tea, and felt like a character from another play. They had a quiet, measured old age. I have a war. Around noon, Mr. Roberts knocked on my door. "Miss Pearson, they've arrived." I nodded. "I've been waiting for them. They demand to meet with you. They behave very aggressively. I'll be down in 5 minutes. Take them to the conference room." "And Mr. Roberts?" "Yes, please activate the recording on the camera in this room, just in case." He nodded understandingly. "Already enabled." I looked at myself in the mirror, my face pale and tired, but my eyes were steady. I adjusted the collar of my sweater and walked slowly downstairs. They were sitting at a round table in a small meeting room. Owen was as white as chalk. Chelsea is red with rage. As soon as I entered, she jumped up. "What have you done?" "What is it?" she cried without greeting him. "You decided to destroy us?" "Sit down, Chelsea," I said calmly. and don't raise your voice at me." "How dare you?" She took a step toward me, but Owen grabbed her arm. "Chelsea, please sit down." She looked at me with hatred, but obeyed. "Mom," Owen began, and his voice was shaking. "Why? Why did you do that?" "What was I supposed to do, Owen?" I asked, sitting down across from them. "Should I thank you for sending me to a nursing home on my birthday?" "Well, that's it. It's for your own good." "What is it?" he exclaimed. "We wanted you to be taken care of. You wanted to get rid of me." I snapped. "And take over my property." Jesse snorted. "What other property? Your miserable apartment?" "My apartment," I said slowly. "My savings and, as it turned out, my holding company, in the bank of which you so imprudently kept your money, and the house that you bought with my guarantee." There was silence. They looked at me, and I could see the horror of understanding reflected in their eyes. They didn't believe until the last minute that I was the Pearson. "This can't be true," Chelsea whispered. "But it's true," the voice behind me confirmed. Mr. Roberts came into the room. "Miss Edith Pearson is the sole founder of Optimal Assets Holding Corporation." Owen put his head in his hands. "Mom, I didn't know. I thought it was just passive income." "You didn't want to know, Owen," I said. "It was convenient for you to think of me as a stupid, helpless old lady. It was easier to justify your actions that way." "What do you want?" Chelsea asked. Her voice was low, but full of biting malice. "Not money, Chelsea. I have the money. I want something else. I want you to understand what responsibility is, that you have to pay for every action." "We will return everything," Owen exclaimed. "We'll apologize, just unlock the accounts. We have nothing to live on. The bank demands to repay the entire mortgage in 30 days. We're going to lose the house." "You've already lost him," I said softly, "the day you decided you could control my life." I stood up. "The conversation is over. You have 30 days to vacate the mansion, otherwise the bailiffs will deal with it. Now, please leave. This is private property, and I don't want you here." They looked at me like a monster, like a mother who had betrayed her child. But I knew that I had done everything right. Sometimes, in order to save a person, you need to let them go, let them fall into free fall, so that when they hit the bottom, they finally learn to fly or at least walk with their feet. They left, slamming the door loudly. I was left alone in the conference room. My legs felt weak, and I sank into a chair. The adrenaline receded, leaving behind a ringing void. Mr. Roberts came into the room with a cup of hot tea. "You did the right thing, Miss Pearson." "I've robbed my own son of everything," I whispered. "You gave him a chance," he countered. "A chance to grow up." The next few weeks were the most difficult. Owen and Chelsea didn't give up trying to take it all back. They called me dozens of times a day. I didn't answer. They wrote messages full of pleading and outright threats. I haven't read them. They tried to break into the resort, but the guards, on my orders, did not let them in. They began to act through others. They called my cousin in Missouri, whom I hadn't spoken to in over a decade. They told her that I had lost my mind, that some scammers had captured me and they were trying to save me. My sister, not understanding the situation, called me, started screaming, making accusations. I had to put her back in her place, coldly and abruptly. Then they tracked down my old friends and told them the same fictional story. Some believed it. Those I've known all my life have turned their backs on me. It hurt, but I held on. Theodore Wallace, my longtime friend and legal advisor, whom I asked to officially handle this case, took over all the negotiations. He was my unwavering support. "Edith, don't give up," he told me on the phone. "They try to put pressure on pity, on guilt. This is their last trump card." One day, Chelsea ambushed me at the gate of the residence when I was returning from a walk. She rushed to me, fell to her knees. "Miss Pearson, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I realized everything. Please don't ruin our family. Owen is on the verge of a nervous breakdown." She was crying, clinging to my coat. I looked down at her flawless makeup smeared with tears, and I felt nothing. No compassion, no anger, just cold fatigue. Get up, Chelsea. Don't humiliate yourself. I won't get up until you forgive me. I forgive you, I said, but it doesn't change anything. The decision has been made. I carefully freed my coat from her grip and headed for the entrance. She remained on her knees in the middle of the road, sobbing out loud. 30 days later, as prescribed, they vacated the mansion, moving into a small rented apartment on the outskirts of the city. Owen lost his position. He was fired as soon as rumors of his financial difficulties began to spread. Chelsea, accustomed to luxury, was desperate. I knew it was hard for them, but I also knew it was the only right way. They had to go through this humiliation, through this need, in order to understand the value of the things they had so frivolously destroyed: trust, family, love. I returned to my old home, but not to live in it. I put it up for sale. I didn't want to stay in the city anymore, where everything reminded me of betrayal. I deposited the proceeds from the sale of the house and part of my savings in the bank in Owen's name. But with one condition: he will be able to access them only after 5 years, and only if he finds a permanent job and undergoes a course of psychotherapy. I didn't want to give him a fish, but a fishing rod. Not a ready-made solution, but an opportunity to rebuild your life yourself. I myself bought a small cottage by the ocean in a small, quiet coastal town of Monterey. I've always dreamed of living by the water. The last time I saw them was on the day of my departure. I came to their rented apartment to say goodbye. They were sitting at an old, worn table in the kitchen. Owen lost weight, got skinny. Chelsea looked exhausted. "I'm leaving," I said. "Where to?" Owen asked. "Somewhere warm. Start a new chapter." I put the keys to the safe deposit box and the letter of conditions on the table. "This is your chance, Owen. Whether you use it or not is up to you." He silently took the keys. "Mom, thank you," he whispered. "No way," I replied. "Just live and try to be truly happy." I left without looking back. I knew that I was leaving behind not only the city, but also a whole life full of pain and disappointment. But I also knew that something new, calm, and maybe even joyful was waiting for me ahead. My new house by the sea was exactly what I dreamed of. It was small, one-story, with a large veranda covered with grapes and a tiny garden where roses and lavender bloomed. The windows faced directly onto the beach, and every morning I woke up to the sound of the surf and the cries of seagulls. I lived alone, but I wasn't lonely. I walked along the shore a lot, collected seashells, and inhaled the salty air. I started painting. I bought watercolor paints, easels, and spent my days sitting on the veranda, trying to capture the changing shades of the ocean on paper. I wasn't very good at it, but I liked the process. He calmed me down, brought peace to my soul. I stopped following the news from Seattle. I didn't know how Owen and Chelsea lived, and honestly, I didn't want to know. I gave them their chance, their way. They had to go on their own. Sometimes Theodore Wallace called me and told me about the holding company's business. Golden Valley Resort was booming. Mr. Roberts turned out to be an exceptional manager. I was calm about my job. 3 years have passed. I got used to my new quiet life. I became friends with the neighbors, an elderly couple of artists. We often drank lemonade together and discussed books and canvases. I felt happy. Yes, that's right. Calm, quiet, peaceful happiness. One day, on my 83rd birthday, I was sitting on the veranda and painting the sunset. The sun was slowly sinking into the ocean, painting the sky in incredible shades of pink, orange, and purple. Suddenly, I heard a familiar voice at the gate. "Mom." I turned around. Owen was standing at the gate. He was alone. He's changed a lot, matured or something. There was no longer that youthful confusion in his gaze. There was confidence, calmness. "May I come in?" he asked. I nodded. He entered the garden and approached the veranda. He was holding a small bouquet of wildflowers in his hands. "Happy birthday, Mom." He handed me the flowers. I took them. Daisies, cornflowers, and bluebells are my favorites. "Thank you," I said softly. We were silent for a long time, looking at the sea. "I found a job," he finally said. In a small construction company, the project manager, the salary is not very high, but I like it. I feel like I belong here. I'm happy for you, Owen. Me and Chelsea, we broke up. I didn't say anything. She couldn't live without luxury, and I realized that I didn't need it. He looked at me. I took your chance, Mom. I've been through therapy, and I've learned a lot about myself, my father, and you. I was a terrible son. I'm sorry. Tears welled up in my eyes, but they weren't tears of pain. They were tears of relief. I forgave you a long time ago, son, I said. He asked, just to be with you? Of course, I smiled. My house is always open for you. He left the next day, but I stayed. I stayed in my little cottage by the ocean, with my colors, with my roses, with my peace of mind. I knew that the past had not disappeared. It will always be a part of me, but it no longer defined my life. I did not defeat them, but myself, my fears, my pain, my dependence on other people's opinions. I've gained something more than money and houses. I found myself, and it was the most important victory of my life.